The playoffs are approaching. It's time to save our fantasy football teams. But what should you do with a guy like TreVeyon Henderson, who this week came out and scored 28 PPR points, had 2 big runs in this game, and finally we see TreVeyon Henderson with his breakout.
Boom.
But is this his breakout? 14 carries for 147 yards and 2 touchdowns. You saw Terrell Jennings there. He only had 4 carries in this game. He was the clear number 1 back. The big, ginormous question with TreVeyon Henderson, which, by the way, TreVeyon Henderson is somebody that we had as a sell multiple weeks ago. Is he still a sell? You can get more for him now. Is he going to maintain the workhorse, number 1, clear-cut back there in New England? And my answer to that is no. I do not think. I know this is going to piss so many of you off, but historically, and also based on what we've seen just this season, New England does not like running one running back committees. They like running very heavy split carry committees, right? They like giving a lot of carries to 2 different guys at best. Ramondre Stevenson, even though like TreVeyon Henderson was kind of boxed out of this offense a couple weeks ago, Ramondre, even in his like best games, was around 70% snatch share and was only getting about 13 carries per game, even with Henderson not really being a factor there. And so, Henderson in his last 2 games, 14 carries in each of those games. He's had 12 and 28 points respectively. But I think a lot of people are going to start paying very, very high prices for TreVeyon Henderson. And I think when Ramondre Stevenson does come back, which I think is probably going to be this week or next week, I think there's a good chance they're going to split that backfield evenly, and I think each of them are going to have cap ceilings at that point. Yep. Now, we said the same thing about, Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard. The fact of the matter is Rico Dowdle just ended up keeping that job. I just don't trust the Patriots as much to give I think TreVeyon Henderson's, I'll say this, I think he's the better running back. I think he should be the starter. I think he should have been the starter there for a while, but I just don't think he's going to get the volume there necessary to maintain this level of production. Not to mention 2 huge explosive plays. I mean, you're not talking about like he was grinding out 8 yards per carry, 10 yards per carry legitimately on every carry, right? And had 2 like goal line touchdowns. He had 2 ginormous plays. And so what you've seen from TreVeyon Henderson this week is probably his ceiling, if I had to guess. Of course, I could always be wrong about this, but I do know that the Patriots tend to want to give the ball to 2 different guys and not really overload one guy. And I think people are going to be very, very high on TreVeyon Henderson after this weekend. In fact, let me just go ahead and pull up the rankings. I want to see where people have him ranked after this weekend. People aren't going overboard, actually. He's running back 26 on average right now, according to experts on the site. Let me see where Danny has him ranked, because this is the one. Danny has him ranked at running back 16. So that's where I think you start getting to like people
Jalen Warren.
over. He's ranked next to Bucky, Brees, Rico Dowdle even. Now, so, I just want to be very explicit in the type of advice I'm giving you here. When I give you guys that you could sell TreVeyon Henderson for, and what I'm basically saying is if you can get these guys, then you should sell him. If you can't get them, then you should hold them. So for that reason, I'm not even going to put like a buy, sell, hold verdict up because people just skim through, look at the verdicts, and then go to the comments and they cry. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to say if you can sell TreVeyon Henderson, you want to get this type of return. Quinshon Judkins, Rico Dowdle, Bucky Irving, Brees Hall. Those are the guys. And then people will immediately go and they'll say, well, nobody's trading. You're not getting those guys. That's not happening. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying if you can't get an overpay, if you can't get something that is like, oh, this is a really good deal, then he's a hold. But like when I'm looking at the guys below that, Chase Brown, Travis Etienne, Jalen Warren, Amari Hampton, Aaron Jones, DeAndre Swift, I don't feel much more comfortable with those guys than I do with TreVeyon. I mean, I probably feel a little bit more comfortable with a lot of them.
Yeah.
But I think TreVeyon...
I prefer all those guys over TreVeyon right now.
So, I mean, there you have it. It just depends.
At least Etienne and Warren.
But I honestly think you could probably get more than that is my thing. Like,
you could definitely get an overreaction pay.
Because you have to also balance the upside with TreVeyon Henderson. Like, you saw what he could potentially do. On an offense, by the way, this team is pretty good. This Patriots team is a pretty freaking good team.
Yep. And
you don't want to risk giving away this level of upside with TreVeyon Henderson. He did only have 1 target in this game as well. I don't think it's locked in that he's going to be like this must-start player in fantasy football the rest of the season. I'm going to say to shop him. And again, I think if you can get an overpay, a clear win, where you can get one of those guys I just mentioned, I think I'm doing that. But I think what you're seeing, from the more reasonable Danny's our extreme case study guy, because Danny's always, he is a TreVeyon Henderson truther. But Mason has him as running back 17. Like I think this is realistic now. I mean, next to Quinshon,
people are believing in the breakout, and again, I understand it. He's a good player.
I completely understand as well. I'm just saying this. Yeah. Any of these guys in the C tier, again, any of the guys ranked above him, Javonte, Kyren, Derrick Henry, Bucky, Gentry, Breece Hall. I don't think you're getting those done, but I think there are some leagues maybe you could, maybe some really casual leagues. That's where I'd sell. In that tier below, I would try to work out like a 2 for 2, maybe get some other guys in there. I'm not sold that Travion has running back 17 to 15 upside rest of season. And so for that reason, I will shop him. If I cannot get an overpay for Travion with the upside that he possesses, it's probably worth a hold. So again, not telling you, hey, these are the type of deals that are getting. Well, first of all, let's just look. Actually, we can just look at what like deals are getting done because I'm actually really curious what deals have gone down. Jefferson for Roma Dunze and Travion Henderson. I mean,
fair.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, if you're going to use Travion to up tier, which I actually really like, up tier to somebody who's not scoring 16 points per game. That would be my advice. J.K. Dobbins for Travion. I'm fine taking Henderson there. I don't really care. Tyler Warren for Henderson. You're doing a tight end there. Bijan for Henderson and Pickens. Take Bijan all day. You can use him to up tier there.
Right.
So I'm seeing him use this in up tier a lot. Kamara and Juwan Jennings for Henderson. I'm fine holding Henderson in that case.
Yep.
So I don't think these prices are necessarily outrageous compared to what we're looking at. Travis Etienne straight up for Henderson. Like I said, they're in the same tier probably. And so I think it's fairly appropriate the prices he's being traded for, but I am shopping him to see if I can get that overpay. If I can get that overpay, there is that range of guys I'm much more comfortable with rest of the season that are going to have high upside. Whereas Travion, I do think Ramondre is going to come back and he's going to have an impact in that offense.
So let's talk about a big name here. Let's talk about Bijan Robinson. Bijan actually has been one of the few players that we've literally not talked about at all this season because he's done pretty much, what you expected where you drafted him. He's been totally fine. What I do want to highlight here, though, with Bijan is the last month has been a little so-so for Bijan Robinson level expectations. 21 points against San Fran, down to 5 points against Miami, back up to 17 points against New England, back down to 10 points against Indy. Over the last month, he's been very, very up and down. And what you've seen in comparison to the first 5 weeks of the season where he had 12, 22, 13, 17, 19 carries, he's had 14, 9, 12, and 17 carries. That volume has gone down over the last month. And another thing that's been ultra concerning, 1 total touchdown over the last 4 weeks. You know what's even more concerning than the 1 total touchdown over the last over the last 4 weeks? Where are those touchdowns going to? They're going to Tyler Algier. Tyler Algier over the last 3 weeks has had 3 touchdowns, 2 of which came in the game against Indy where they gave him all of the red zone carries. This, I feel like, is a tale as old as time at this point where we always, at some point in the season, freak out about Tyler Algier and what he's doing or what he's taking away from Bijan in that offense. There's always a point in the season where Atlanta's like, oh, maybe we should use our less good running back than Bijan. And here you go. Against India, 17 points to Bijan's 10 because he gets the touchdowns. There's not necessarily, I guess there is, over the last month, there's kind of been an efficiency concern on the ground for Bijan. 2.8 yards per carry in week 7, 2.7, 3.8, and 4.9. That is going to be volatile game to game. That trend is not super exciting. The receiving capability is still there, though, like 10 targets against New England, 8 targets against San Fran, but that has also fluctuated down to 3 and 2 against Miami and Indy. You're starting to see, in my opinion, there are a lot of things that factor into this and why I'm at least a little bit concerned. Number one, you've got the Atlanta Falcons who are now 3 and 6. They're down in a good number of these games, and they do have to pass the ball quite a bit. Their game script has not been as Bijan friendly as it was to start the season when they had a above 500 record. And now they've kind of been on this big skid, and this is impacting his volume on the ground because they have to play from behind more. And then again, the Algier stuff would be concern number 2 when the Falcons just every single year decide to utilize Algier. And then the other concern again is that lack of efficiency over the last month. So with all those concerns together, and then you're looking at the production output, Bijan Robinson is running back 5 on the year. I'm looking at the tiers on expert consensus right now. And while in ROS, we have been totally okay with putting Bijan in the S tier, I'm no longer okay with that. CMC and JT are in a tier of their own. Bijan right now, according to expert consensus, is in a 5-player tier up top with JT, CMC, Puka, and Jamar Chase. Bijan doesn't belong there. He belongs in the tier below, where JSN currently is a tier below all those guys. JSN has had 1 game below 18 points this season. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Devon Achane. Let's highlight both of those guys at the running back position compared to Bijan Robinson this season. Devon Achane coming off of a 40-point game. Devon Achane objectively has the highest floor of all these running backs. He's a running back 3 directly behind CMC and Jonathan Taylor. His last 4 weeks have been 12, 20, 16, and 40. He's had a 31-point game as well, a 26-point game. I mean, this dude is never below like 15, 16 points. Bijan Robinson has shown a little more fluctuation there. Jahmyr Gibbs, a little more game by game dependent there. He's had a couple of single digit games. But again, his boom games are better than Bijan's, as good, if not better. I mean, he's had 2 38-point performances this season. And then again, you're talking about those other wide receivers, JSN, who's the wide receiver 1 right now in fantasy football. And then Amon-Ra, who's very consistent, CeeDee Lamb, who might be a buy low. Like every single one of those guys, I think, are neck and neck with Bijan. So at that point, at that price point, if you got Bijan being priced in your league equivalent to Puka Nacua, Jamar Chase, CMC, JT, and they view that as almost a lateral move. JT, honestly, probably in a tier of his own at this point.
Nobody, yeah.
I would, when I don't prefer Bijan over any of the guys in the tier below, I mean, I'm saying soft sell with Bijan Robinson. And if you can make a pivot from one of those 4 other players that I mentioned in that top tier, then I would just make the move.
All right. Well, Nathan traded for this guy a couple weeks ago, and everybody acted like he was a throw-in and he was nothing. In reality, when you're looking at Alec Pierce's last couple weeks, 18, 17, 8, and 14 points since week 7. He's had 10, 5, 13, and 7 targets in that span. Obviously looked at as more of a big play receiver for the Indianapolis Colts offense, but an offense that's pretty darn good this year. He's only scored 1 touchdown on the season and is the wide receiver 37 on the year, ranked as the wide receiver 39 rest of the season by the experts over on FlockFantasy.com. Alec Pierce has become kind of a staple in this offense. I think he's one of the most underrated players, wide receivers in the NFL. I think he's one of the most underrated fantasy players. Now, I do think people are starting to show him his respect, because when you're looking at right about where Alec Pierce is, ranked here, expert average on the site, he's ranked next to Terry McLaurin and DJ Moore and Jacoby Myers. He's ranked not far from Khalil Shakir and Romeo Doubs and Wan'Dale Robinson and Jameson Williams. And as much as I love Alec Pierce, I'm honestly surprised he's ranked that high. Mm-hmm. I would have thought you could get him cheaper than that. And I would take Wan'Dale over him, would you?
I would take Wan'Dale over
Doubs?
him. I'd take Pierce.
I would take Doubs. Shakir?
I would take Shakir.
I would take Shakir as well. Terry?
Terry, when is Terry ever going to be on the field?
I don't know.
They already declared him out for week 11. It's Monday.
Did they really already do that? They can kick.
I don't think he's going to play this year, dude.
That's awesome.
Legit.
I love that. Yeah, we'll not play.
So I'll take Pierce there.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, frick.
I'm sorry. If you offered me Terry for Alec Pierce, I would hold Alec Pierce.
That's outrageous. DJ Moore or Alec Pierce?
That one I would take Pierce.
Yeah, I mean, DJ Moore, I didn't realize had 0 points against the Giants.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy. So, I mean, I do think, though, there was a mixed bag there.
People are catching on to Alec Pierce.
I think so, too.
I don't think you can get him at a discount anymore, so I know people hate it when we have... This video is not titled buys or sells. This video is titled buy, sell, hold.
Actually, it's titled How to Save Your Fantasy Football Team every single week.
Okay, fine, but we talk about buy, sell, hold. I'm holding Alec Pierce.
Yeah, I
don't think you can sell him for enough for it to be like, hey, you're going to get a way better guy as a flex option. Like, again, I flexed Wan'Dale Robinson in the Flock League over Alec Pierce this week.
Yeah, I would say
I lost production there.
I would say if you can get a higher floor guy like Wan'Dale or Khalil Shakir for Alec Pierce, I would do it. So there's that.
Yeah.
Outside of that, the guys, everybody in that wide receiver 37 to 44 range is such a.
There's no one ranked super far below Alec Pierce where we're like, man, I really want that guy over Pierce.
I don't think there's that much of a difference.
Like, I think he's a hold. So.
No, I think there are guys underneath of him like Juwan Jennings that have upside to be better than Alec Pierce rest of season.
Yeah.
And even Josh Downs underneath of him, but. Like I said, I think people have kind of caught on with Alec Pierce. I think the buy window is kind of slammed shut. And so I'm thinking I would also probably say with Alec Pierce, you have to hold him at his current price.
Yeah. Let's talk about James Cook. I haven't talked about James Cook in a minute. I think we talked about him potentially being like maybe a buy that you might want to invest in, like back when he had a couple of single digit games in weeks 5 and 6. You saw that natural touchdown regression. Then the bye week comes, has 2 more touchdowns against Carolina, back up to 33 points. Then down to like a modest 13 and 10 points against Kansas City and Miami. Miami, again, should be a pretty easy run defense. His snap share went down quite a bit, 50% snap share, 44% snap share against Carolina. Obviously, the Carolina snap share going down because they benched all their starters in the fourth quarter. The one against Miami, they were down the whole time. And again, he had 5 targets for 24 receptions, but you're not really seeing a ton of consistent receiving usage for James Cook, which I do think lowers his floor quite a bit. He's basically like James Cook to me is like Quinshawn in a better offense with a little bit more receiving upside.
Yeah, but if they use him that way, that's the thing.
If they
his receiving upside
like
salvaged his day against
it's
Miami.
not consistent, right?
Yeah.
So you've, again, very similar to Bijan, who we talked about in this video. You had a really, really great start to the season, and in the last month, it's been a lot of up and down, and honestly, a lot more bad and mediocre than good. Right now, where he's being ranked on the site, he is in the same tier as Jacobs, Saquon, Javonte, and Kyren. Kyren has just established such a consistent presence in that offense, even with Puka and Adams producing at such a high level. He's had one single digit game this season. He's coming off of 2 17 and 22 point games against New Orleans and San Fran. They got Seattle, Tampa, Carolina, Arizona, Detroit. I would expect every single one of those over the next 5 weeks to be ultra productive for Kyren. At this point, I'm maybe giving the nod to Kyren Williams over James Cook right now with how the Rams offense as a whole looks over the streakiness of Buffalo's offense on a weekly basis. Javonte is Javonte. He's consistently underrated. There's no difference to me between Javonte and James Cook. Jacobs, I prefer Jacobs. Saquon, if you want to prefer James Cook over Saquon, I guess I don't blame you there because the offenses are equally as streaky. But again, I mean, even the tier down below here, I mean, Ashton Jeanty has kind of established himself as one of the more consistent backs over the last month that isn't like an elite tier running back. Ashton Jeanty belongs in this tier with these other guys at this point. He absolutely does. The fact that he's even in the same conversation right now in expert consensus as Derrick Henry, who cannot score a touchdown for the life of him, and Quinshawn, who's in a terrible offense. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Derrick Henry is Jaylen Warren. Like, there's Jeanty should not even be in this conversation. He should be in the tier above. So again, if you could down tier from James Cook and get Jeanty plus, I would go for it. If you want to make the pivot and get a little more consistency with any of those running backs in that same range as James Cook, then I'm totally cool doing that as well. So honestly, at this point, because of James Cook price and the fact that he's gotten a couple touchdowns against Carolina, had that 33-point game, and he's been in the lower end of the double digits over the last couple of weeks where he hasn't had like 5 points or less like he did before the bye, he has salvaged his value where it hasn't really dropped that much. I think you could sell for a pretty decent price.
I mean, consider this as well as weeks 15 through 17 schedule of the hardest of any running back, probably in fantasy football.
Yep.
Going to New England, going to Cleveland, playing against Philly.
Yep.
I mean, it is a brutal playoff schedule. I think you have to do not sell low on James Cook. Don't panic sell. If you have James Cook, if you're lucky enough to have... This isn't
a panic sell. This is just...
If you're lucky enough to have James Cook in your flex spot, I'd probably hold just because he gives you that 30-point upside. Even in tough matchups, he can score 30 points. I mean, we saw him have 26. The games where he scored a lot though this year, Carolina, the Saints, Miami the first time, the Jets, and then Baltimore. So... the tough defensive matchups are, again, like Nathan said, leading to a low floor. Do not sell low on Cook, but I'm fine moving to the guys in the same tier: Jacobs, Barkley, Javonte, Kyren Williams, down tiering to an Ashton Jeanty. I think those can all be good moves, but do not trade out of James Cook for somebody who doesn't have that same upside. I think all the guys we just mentioned have that 30-point upside any given week, and that's important when you get to the playoffs.
Any sell verdict that we're going to have for any of these players is never going to be sell for cheaper than what they're worth.
Right.
We're never going to tell you to do that.
So with Cook, I mean, again, maybe you can shop him, but I'm not opposed to just hanging on to him and kind of riding this out. Kyren Williams has had a good couple of weeks since the bye, 17 and 22 points. He's had 3 total touchdowns in those 2 games. And you've seen his workload kind of still be a mixed bag. Before the weeks leading up to the bye, 13, 14, 13, and 12 carries for Kyren Williams in those weeks, 25 against New Orleans. So he came back out and got that workhorse, Kyren Williams game we're used to.
It was a perfect game script for him.
And then back down to 14 points against San Francisco. And you've seen Blake Corum. Blake Corum's actually a pretty hot waiver pickup this week. You've seen him. He had 39% snap share this week, 13 carries again against San Francisco in a game where they were winning by a couple scores for a lot of the game, right? And so that's worth considering as well. But with Kyren Williams, the thing is, even when he's not even though he had less snap share this week, he had his second most productive game of the season. And that's the thing with Kyren is, even in the games where he's not going to get like a ton of work, he is probably going to have a floor of at least 10 points and a ceiling of up to like 25 points. And that's probably the most attractive thing about Kyren Williams in terms of his fantasy football value. I personally, I'm assuming because based on what you just said, I think you're saying, okay, maybe we can buy Kyren Williams. And I'm just going to look at, I just want to look at what trades have gone down for Kyren and see if this price is actually even achievable.
I would be between a hold and a buy. I think at this point, I'm very comfortable with knowing exactly what he is. And that is a mid to low end running back one. He doesn't have the elite upside that all those other guys do, but oh man, is he reliable? Like he's rarely ever going to screw you in your lineup like some of these other guys are in the same price range as him right now. So.
Yeah. So, the trades that we've seen gone down, like George Pickens for Kyren Williams. I think I'd rather have Kyren Williams in my flex spot.
Back.
So that's one move that I could consider making with Kyren Williams is when you're looking at the overall rankings with like running backs and wide receivers combined. I think there are a lot of wide receivers I would move for Kyren Williams just because I like flexing running backs more. Somebody traded Chase Brown for Kyren Williams, but that's probably not happening. Somebody traded Bijan for Kyren Williams, which is also not happening. Those are two outlier trades. Derrick Henry for Kyren Williams. Easily taking Kyren there. I don't think anybody's doing that at this point. Somebody traded Justin Jefferson for Kyren Williams, which I would probably still lean Justin Jefferson there, to be honest with you, even without the elite upside that we've seen Justin Jefferson have in the past. But most of these trades are big trades where like he's Kyren Williams is a piece, like Garrett Wilson and Kyren Williams for Odunze and Josh Jacobs, which I would take Odunze and Jacobs there fairly easily. But Kyren Williams for J.K. Dobbins, Jake Ferguson, Rashad White. If you could put together a bunch of crap and get to, Kyren Williams, I think he's a great flex option to upgrade your current championship level fantasy football rosters. So that's kind of where I'm at with Kyren. Like, I think that his price is, I think he's ranked exactly what he's going to do rest of the season. He's going to be a low end running back one. I think that, in terms of ranking him with the other running backs in that tier, he's at the bottom of that tier probably, because if you can get Josh Jacobs, if you can get Josh Jacobs for him, I'm doing it. Nathan said he would take Kyren over Cook. I think I would honestly prefer him evenly to Cook, Barkley, and Javonte Williams at this point. But if you can buy Kyren for any of these C tier level guys, Henry, Genty, I think that's a lateral move. Bucky at this point, I would do Rico Dowdle, Quinton Judkins, those guys. Maybe you have to add a small piece on top of those guys to get to Kyren Williams, and I'm fine with that. But I do think with Kyren, you just, not like Nathan said, you're buying for the safety. You know what he's going to be this year, and he's going to be a safe low-end running back one for you, and I think that's worth probably at least exploring what his market price is right now in your league.
Yeah, so one of the biggest pieces of news that came out this week, like literally came out just a couple hours ago before we started doing this video, was Joe Burrow. His practice window has been opened. He's practicing in a limited fashion in Cincinnati. When we initially expected a timetable of early to mid-December, it's now going to be late November. They said, I think the report came out that he's going to be probably good to go for the Thanksgiving game, which should be in week 13 against Baltimore? Yes. Or am I week 2 early? I don't know. It's going to be soon. Basically sooner than expected. And no, this is not a conversation about Joe Burrow. This is a conversation about what do we do with the wide receivers that are not named Jamar Chase, aka just T. Higgins. What are we going to do with T. Higgins? Because Higgins, since Joe Flacco has been the quarterback there, has had 11, 21, 11, and 33 points. So very T. Higgins-esque where, that touchdown run, man, he's had like 4 touchdowns in the last 4 weeks. Now coming off of the bye against Pittsburgh, New England, Baltimore, Buffalo, Baltimore twice, Miami, Arizona, Cleveland. With, after a couple of weeks here, going to have Joe Burrow back. I mean, now that Burrow's back, what are we doing with Higgins? Are we buying or are we selling him? I think this is going to be a little bit situationally dependent, but I will say probably buy T. Higgins for people that are that can afford the volatility with Higgins before Burrow is back. And guess what? By the way, there's already volatility with Higgins as is. And honestly, you're just going to be looking at a better situation for Higgins and what his outlook is going to be more than like Jamar Chase, honestly. Like Jamar Chase is going to do Jamar Chase things and he's going to continue to do Jamar Chase things. And yeah, do you trust Burrow more? Yeah, but ultimately, like you're probably just going to see more consistent like usage for Higgins in addition to what Chase is already doing because his target volume is ridiculous. But right now, he is at the wide receiver position, according to expert consensus. Higgins is ranked back-to-back with Marv, Sutton, Devonta Smith, Tet McMillan, DK Metcalf, and Addison. Why is Addison in the same breath as T. Higgins right now? If you can move Jordan Addison for T. Higgins, by golly, please do that. Please. I mean, you're going to get literally the 2 times the amount of passing volume from Joe Burrow, at least, maybe 3 times the amount of passing volume from Burrow that you're going to get from JJ McCarthy the rest of the season. If you didn't believe it 3 weeks ago, then please believe it now because we've seen it for 2 weeks. So if you can do that, by all means do it. Tet McMillan, that's a good question. Do we prefer a wide receiver one in an offense that is definitely iffy, Or do you prefer T. Higgins? I prefer T. Higgins. Sorry.
I mean, the upside lies
I would
with
rather
Higgins.
have Higgins. The upside lies with Higgins, and that's how we're talking about a wide receiver too. That's how good this offense is going to be once Joe Burrow is back. It's already solid, and he's already producing. So again, I'm going to lean soft buy here for T. Higgins. I like his outlook now that Burrow is back healthy, or not, he's not back healthy yet, but is going to be. And again, until then, it's okay. Flacco's going to be there. You're going to have some good days. You're going to have some less good days. But I don't think there's any situation in this tier of players of 2s and mixing a couple of 1s that have better situations than Higgins does. You could debate Marv rest of season over T. Higgins, and I would respect it. I view them in the same tier though. Devonta Smith, Cortland Sutton, DK Metcalf, like I would much rather have Higgins over Metcalf. So I'm leaning soft buy here.
Yeah. So again, the point of this video is to kind of give you the lay of the land and the current price of some of these some of these names that are some of the hottest names in fantasy football right now, and tell you at what point we'd move them, what point we'd buy them, etc. Just kind of give you some context on if you're going to move these guys or move for them, what you have to pay or what would be comfortable paying. That's what the whole point of this video, and so hopefully that was made more clear this week. Do us a favor, drop a like, make sure you're subscribed as well. If you'd subscribe and help us get to 40K, we're less than 3,000 subscribers away, so we'd appreciate it if you guys did that. But thanks for watching. We'll see you here soon.